morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good, good, good morning, sun. Good, good, good morning. Good, good morning. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good, good, good morning, sun. Good, good morning, life. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive and love. Good, good morning, sun. Good, good morning, sun. Good morning, life. Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's great to be alive.
And hello, happy Friday. Good morning for me, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. So I thought I would share based on a question I got from someone. They asked me about something related to independent consulting and how do you get contract work essentially. And so I thought about it, and it was an interesting question. I hadn't really thought about it before, and I have not had to think about it for many years, just because I have been in, or I was in the Dynamics GP space for long enough that I had developed the relationships and contacts and just ongoing work relationships such that I was never having to, I guess, actively pursue new projects like, hey, where do I find new projects or do job posting or deal with recruiters? I looked into those things at various times, but I never actually had to utilize them, fortunately. I've been very, very fortunate in my career the last 14 years, I guess, that I've been doing this independently. So I've had to rethink it. It's like, okay, that's a good question. If you do want to be an independent Business Central contractor, if you do want to do a independent or remote project or job, how do you go about that? And I'm open to suggestions. I'm just rethinking this after many years of not having to think about it. Not so much because I need it at the moment, but because I'm thinking, okay, are there other independent Business Central developers, consultants, contractors, whatever the case is? And let's talk about how we can kind of coordinate and perhaps make that process easier, not only for the independent consultant or contractor resource, but also for Business Central customers, users, and even partners. So if a partner needs a Business Central reporting expert and they just need this one report for this one customer, how do we make it easier for them to find a good resource to do that particular job? And it may be a one-off job. Maybe they don't have that resource at that moment in time. Maybe their usual developer is busy. How can we help facilitate this in the community? I mean, we're great at communicating and working with each other. So can we kind of extend that to say, hey, where can I find an independent resource to get project X or Y done in a reasonable manner? And it's a good question, both for the independent and for the partner customers looking to have the project done. So thought I'd explore that. But there's a side conversation here that's been kind of in the back of my mind about what I do and how I do it. And it started with a conversation that I had with a friend. We were on a road trip and talking about what we are doing and what it would take in order to kind of semi-retire or move away from full-time work, day in, day out. If we had a certain amount of savings for retirement or semi-retirement or whatever that looked like, how would we transition to a phase where we're not continuously just solely focusing on work Monday through Friday, for instance? That was the general conversation. And I forget which way it went, but essentially he asked me, if you were to retire, semi-retire, get in this situation where you're kind of mostly on vacation or in relaxed mode, would you continue to work? And I said, yeah, like I like what I do. Like it's not really in many respects, it's not really work for me. So I'm happy to work part-time or whatever that looks like, explore, work on projects, develop new software. I don't know, but I'm perfectly happy continuing to work. It's not like I'm out of here later, I'm never going to work again. I just don't know how that would work for me. And I said, well, how about you? You seem good at what you do. He knows what he's doing. He knows the intricacies. He's day in and day out, he's exploring all these complications about he's kind of in the home construction, custom home construction and renovation and property financing, all related to residential homes. And I said, would you continue to do what you do? And he said, absolutely not. I hate it. And that kind of shocked me. I'm like, what? Wait, what? You do something 40, 50, 60 hours a week that makes good money, apparently. You're good at it, apparently, but you hate it. That blew my mind. Like, why are you doing it? And, well, it's because he's able to do it. It pays well. And, like, it's just, one of those things where you end up there and you have these opportunities, you can do them, you do well, but apparently he does not like what he does. And when you're in construction, you're dealing with this city and that county and the state laws, and you buy property, then you find out there's like an endangered weed on the property, and so you can't develop there, or you need to hire 6 consultants in order to defend your position that you should be able to remodel an existing house on this property because the water table is X and Y. And so it apparently, it gets complicated, and then he has to deal with unexpected problems that involve county and state and city licensing, and it understandably gets messy. But apparently he just doesn't like it. I'm like, wow. Fortunately, I don't have that problem. I haven't had that problem for years. So I'm in a position where I really like what I do. So I'm looking to figure out, how do I set up my work and what I'm trying to do such that I can do it in the future at different stage of my life. So semi-retirement, traveling, when the kids leave the house and they're independent or they're in college or whatever that looks like. How do I set that up? But I really like my work. And one of the things I really like is the endless learning. So in the consulting and anyone who's in IT or development or software, that it's just endless learning because there's constant changes. So I made this a while back and I shared it previously. So I think, yay, I figured this out. I figured it all out. Really, what I just figured out was just the very tip, and there's just an entire universe. And so I can learn more and I can think, yay, I figured it all out, but then there's more or something changes. So there's always learning, and I personally happen to enjoy that. And one of the nice things about working in IT and software in the capacity that I have at the moment is I can work lots of different places. These are more me experimenting. I'm trying to experiment. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to force myself to work remote in random places to see what works and what doesn't. What resources do I need? What setup do I need? What infrastructure do I need? How much internet access do I need? How much power do I need to work so many hours? What speeds do I need? What do I need on my laptop? Do I need like a full-blown development environment with a IDE, with SQL Server, a database? Do I need everything local? Or can I have some dependencies on internet-based resources? So every time I post a photo on Twitter of me with my Tuesday office or Thursday office or me at the park, it's me trying to figure out, among other things, doing work, but I'm trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, when can I work remote, when can't I, I'm just checking all this out. And I figured out that I can find, in some cases, where are the cell towers? And if I can find a good cell tower with a good signal, I can get over 100 megabit. That enables me to do certain things. But if I'm at the mall up there, I know at my mall, the data service for all cellular carriers is just horrible. So I can kind of barely get work done. And I know at most beaches, at least in Southern California, the data speeds, you can make a phone call, but the data speeds for internet access are not great along most beaches. So it's a challenge. So I'm trying to just see what works, what doesn't. So with that in mind, really, my ultimate goal is to have the capacity to work from anywhere, essentially anywhere. Like if I'm in the middle of the desert with no power and zero cell signal, obviously if I'm camping out there, my chances of doing work are zero. And that's fine. That's for certain situations. But if I want to be on vacation or semi-vacation and do a little bit of work in order to sustain that, I want to be able to work from places like this. So I want to go to Bali. I've always wanted to go to Bali. I just want to check it out. Like spend a week in Bali. Can I work from Bali? I'm assuming Bali has internet access. I need to research it. I need to see what the speeds are and how reliable it is. So as long as I have semi-reliable internet, semi-reliable power, I should be able to work from a beach in Bali. I'd love to do that. It's a business trip where I need to go to Bali and I need to, sorry, let me turn off my phone here. I need to go to Bali. I need to meet with the businesses and customers, potential customers of Bali in order to see if Business Central is a good fit, right? Yeah. So all expenses paid, business trip to Bali sounds like a great idea. And then this is Montenegro. And if you've ever seen the photos of the coast, I don't know what that area is called, but if you look at Montenegro and Serbia and that area along the Mediterranean coast, it looks gorgeous. So I'd love to go to Montenegro and visit that area and see what it's like and to work there. So that's my ultimate goal. And whether that's while I'm actively working and get a villa there overlooking the ocean, or whether I'm on the beach on vacation part-time, that's what I want to do. So how can we make that happen? A few years ago, that was really difficult to do. You needed VMs, you needed on-premise infrastructure, you needed VPNs at a minimum if you were working out of an office. You often needed big servers, lots of data. It was quite a hassle. Now, VPNs, internet access, GoToMeeting, Zoom, RDP, those really changed the equations over the last 10 years. Like it went from marginal or very difficult to pretty easy nowadays. But development has still had some challenges related to the development environment, at least in my experience. I had to have a lot of junk installed on a development environment in order to be productive. And if I set that up on a server or VM, I would have to remote in. If I set that up on my laptop, that's fine, but I'd have to use my laptop. It's really a hassle to switch between a server VM and or a desktop somewhere and a laptop. I just didn't find a good way to do it. It was really hard to keep them in sync so that I could be productive on one or the other at a moment's notice. However, I have been pursuing this for years, and it is browser-based development. It is coming. It's always seems like it's right around the corner, and it's been that way for several years, but it is coming. So at a conference several years ago, I think 2019, I demoed how I could modify code in an Azure function, C# Azure function on my iPad using an IDE, check it into GitHub or my repo, my Git repo. It automatically did CI/CD or whatever the process is, where it automatically detected a check-in. Azure Functions can automatically rebuild that and push that new code. And it was super cool, but very limited support in that scenario. But browser-based development is coming. Last night in my late night coding session, I tested from scratch setting up this thing called Code Server. And this is a open source project, totally free as far as I could tell, GitHub repository, where you go there, you spool up a $5 a month DigitalOcean droplet. That's just one example that is super cheap, super convenient. And literally in less than 5 minutes, you can have a new Linux server that hosts this Code Server project that provides this. You just type in the IP address in a browser and you instantly have a full-blown copy of VS Code natively in a browser. It is wild. Now, although they've had like 50 or 60 releases of this, it's a pretty mature relatively for what it is. When I tested a few extensions, they didn't work for me in the browser. So I tested Azure Functions, and I tried to create a new Azure function using the extension template, and that didn't work. I got an error, and it's probably well beyond my capabilities to figure out what that is. But this is the closest I have seen to true fully browser-based development. It's super cool. I'm very excited about this. And somehow it's running VS Code on the Linux server, and it's kind of projecting this in the browser through WebSockets or whatever that technology is that I don't understand at all. So I'm going to explore this, see where the boundaries are. It's probably a few years away, maybe a year away, I don't know. But awesome, awesome project. So check that out. Now, AL language extension is currently not listed in their open source marketplace, but I may be able to pull the VSIX from AL language extension marketplace and import it here. I have my bet. I'll bet money that it's not going to work, but I just want to see if it's possible. I suspect that it will not work on Linux. It does work on Windows. I just saw a tweet that it was ported to Mac a while back. I don't know how well it works there, what limitations exist. So I'm assuming it will not work on the Linux due to file system and OS dependencies. But it's kind of cool. Now, if I could have a Windows VM that did something similar and projected this in a browser, like in theory, I think it's technologically possible, maybe that would allow us to have full Azure Functions and full AL language extension support. So I'm open to doing that. So maybe instead of $5, maybe I have to pay $50 a month. Is that worth it? I don't know. Or maybe I could self-host. That would be possible. I self-host the server VM and it projects this into my browser. Opportunity. Next up, GitHub Codespaces. This was kind of an evolution of an earlier Microsoft technology. I forget what they called it. Maybe it was Codespaces or Remote IDE. I forget what the name they used, but they shut that down and rolled it into this project, which is still in beta preview, like private preview. I'm on the wait list. Same concept, that you can instantly have a full IDE, a VS Code IDE in a browser. It runs in a Linux VM or subsystem in the background, and you are Now, this one is not free because it is hosted by GitHub. You do not provide your own Linux server. So they bill for storage and compute usage. So I don't know what that cost would look like. But another opportunity. Now, will this support Azure Functions? Will this support AL language extension? Given that it's Linux on the back end, I'm guessing it'll have similar limitations. And this is not really applicable to Business Central developers, but just to show what's possible, this is the most advanced browser-based development environment that I've come across personally. This is an organization called Replit. It's a venture-backed company that I believe their focus was on education and learning oriented around development. So if you want to learn software development, any number of, a couple dozen languages, you can have an instant development environment in a web browser. Zero setup. Like, it's literally instant. You click one button, you choose your language, boom, there you go. It connects to Git repositories. So you can pull code down, you can submit code to a repo, and they have additional infrastructure that allows you to host a solution. So if you do a full stack solution on Replit, and it's a prototype or a full-blown functional demo, you can host that on Replit, and it's a public application. So very cool opportunities there. So it is coming. We have the dependency on Windows that I think makes it difficult for the Business Central world, but I'm guessing there's ways to make that happen within a year or two. So I'd love to see that to support my work anywhere goal. So related to that, if you're an independent consultant, like, how do you find contract work? Or you want to be an independent Business Central consultant, developer, whatever that looks like, within the Business Central world or the larger Dynamics, Microsoft Dynamics world, and even the Power Platform ecosystem. And all the related technologies that entails, Azure, etc. So how do you find contract work? Or how do you let people know you're available as an independent? How do you showcase your skills and experience? Do you go find a recruiter? So there are a couple recruiters that are popular in the Microsoft space, but I've had mixed results. I mean, they may be good at certain areas if you have a good recruiter, but the margin they take, the fees they charge to customers, the way they kind of funnel and limit the interaction between you and a potential customer, there's some constraints there that I'm not a fan of. Do you go with a typical job site like a Dice or a Monster where employers post job opportunities or you post your resume and they play the middleman? Those have been around for a while. I haven't really pursued those for the niche that I've been in with Dynamics GP and now Business Central. So I don't know how well they work. I haven't looked at those in years. The listings that I put on there many, many years ago, I just got spam and junk mail from recruiters. So it was of literal zero value to me for what I was looking for, given my specialty. So I was thinking, well, could I create a blog post with a list of people who are available, kind of like my Business Central resources page, where I have a list of 300 different Business Central links and resources and training materials? Do something similar for independents, but that starts to get kind of complicated really quickly. Keeping it current, people putting their name on. Am I, kind of implicitly endorsing these people? Do I have to vet people? What if there's an organization that wants to get listed? It starts to get kind of messy quickly. And so I don't want to necessarily be the moderator of that resource. Could we create an independent independent website that lets resources or employers post and serve that matchmaking? But that can be a pretty big project. So it's like, Well, then I thought, well, what about Upwork? Like, that's kind of obvious in hindsight. So I've used Upwork to find a few resources, and one is really, really good. Actually, I've used it twice, I think. One was for a personal video editing thing. Found a guy, I think he was in the UK, did a great job for a little family vacation video. Loved it. And then I found a Linux system administrator to maintain all of my Linux-based web hosting. Anything I wanted, like DigitalOcean, Droplet, anything related to Linux, because I'm terrible with that. He does, and he's done a great job. So how about Upwork? Like, what if we used Upwork as a kind of a communal resource, an agreed upon resource, a destination for independent consultants and customers or partners looking for an independent resource for a small project, ongoing work, whatever the case is. How would that work? And the one thing I'm not sure of, there are a lot of questions when I, as a US resident, go and use Upwork. It says, do you want to limit this to US this or US that, US resources? So I don't know if Upwork is more US oriented or for US based projects. Like if someone is in Germany, would it be as effective to use Upwork for a project in Germany? Like, does it ask you, do you want only German resources? I'm not sure. So let me know how that works. But I've had good experience with Upwork personally, and I know a few people who have used Upwork as independents, and it seems to work well for them. So if I'm searching for a resource who is familiar with Business Central, I can just search for that, and I can choose additional keywords to filter that. And so if I do that, here's an example of what I saw. So I searched for Business Central, and I got several pages of results, but of course, the one challenge is there is no Business Central specific skill set or category. I had to search for an exact phrase. If I just type Business Central without the quotation marks, I got all sorts of random stuff: CPAs, accountants, full stack developers, Java developers, you name it. So when I searched for Business Central with quotation marks, it improved the search result. So I'm wondering about how we could potentially collectively refine that process to make it easier for people to post and make it easier for people to find resources. So here we are, Business Central Nav Consultant, Microsoft Dynamics Nav/Business Central Architect. You see there's kind of a lot of inconsistency in the postings in terms of how they produce titles and how they describe their skill set. And that could be valid in that they have different focuses, but if they are Business Central focused, I think there's a better way. There's probably a better way to kind of hack the search engine to facilitate these searches. So if I look at a couple examples, you see there are several pages. I found one. This is interesting. So Asif is in Lahore, Pakistan, and 93% job success. And so you're starting to see some of the features of Upwork, $25 an hour, and reading his skill set, it's like, this is interesting. And what's also interesting is you can see the work history. Business Central support, excellent job, well done, we'll hire him again. Like, this is kind of cool to see this feedback. Like, after seeing these ratings, like, wow, was fantastic, outstanding performance, very knowledgeable, professional, good communication skills, all delivered good work on the project, communication was top notch. It's like, these are some good endorsements. So now, having done this before with Upwork people, they do encourage that and solicit that, and I totally understand that, but I do believe this is legitimate feedback. So it's like, wow, I'm kind of like, a sales analysis dashboard. So pretty cool to see this feedback. And then I found Natia G from Tbilisi, Georgia, and a slightly different perspective, less on the development. It looked like a functional consultant business architect. And so she appears to focus on the functional side of the application. But, a master of business administration from Tbilisi, the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. Like, these are not, random, inexperienced people. And Asif has a Master's of Software Engineering from a university in Lahore, South Asia University, Bachelor's in Computer Science. 1,500 hours on Upwork build. So this seems like a cool platform and cool opportunity for Business Central independent consultants. And it tends to cater, I'd say, more towards the technical skills. But based on what I saw here, I'm thinking, okay, maybe functional could be an opportunity. And it looks like Natia is relatively new on the platform, but one job, but not just for technical folks. It could be for functional consultants. So that might be a good opportunity. So anyway, I thought that was really interesting to see. Now, as you scroll through these, you will see a lot of variation in the description of their offer, their skill set. You see Power BI, Business Central Expert, NAV, data analysis, BC Nav, Power Apps, Power BI, Flow, and Azure. So you can have a wide portfolio, but for Business Central, just to keep it simple, how do we facilitate that? Okay, so that's on the consultant or contractor side. And on the company or employer or partner side, you can also post a job. So if you want work on a specific item and you just want to have people bid on it, you can do that as well. So you post a job, you specify what category you want it to list in, and it looks like business application development on the development side might be most appropriate. If you want functional, I didn't look for that for this example, but functional may have something similar that'll be a good fit. ERP functional. You can specify certain skills. I just tested AL programming, and what happened is if there's even a partial match, it recommends that, and you can't add it as a custom skill. But if you type something like Business Central Development or AL language programming, it kind of allows you to specify your own tag so you get exactly what you want and you don't have to choose theirs. But there's business application development services, deliverables, expertise, and skills. So you can specify all of those parameters. You can then, as a poster of a project or job, specify the size, how long, what level of expertise you need. And this is where I'm wondering about the US specific focus. It asks me, am I only interested in US only resources or worldwide talent? And I know a lot of, in the case of partners or customers, I've offered resources outside of the US and they wouldn't even consider it. For various reasons, they just said, we only want a resource in the US. And time zone alone, I can understand the logistics being preferable there. You can then specify whether an hourly rate is what you're interested in or an overall project budget. And the contractors will let you know that's not realistic or whether they can fit into your estimated budget. Some other nice features of Upwork that make it good as an existing platform for independents to utilize is they have a skills and certification validation process in many categories. I don't know if they have that for Business Central. Maybe they can validate the Business Central exam certification. Full communication logging. So if you hire someone or if you interview someone on the platform, everything is logged. All of your messages back and forth. It's like a direct message chat room. All of that is there. So you have all that communication saved, including change requests, budget changes, things like that. So that's kind of nice from a liability or if there's a disagreement, it's all documented in theory. You can have change requests. You can have, if you're the resource, you can increase costs. They handle payment processing. That's a big deal, right? So if you're independent and you're looking to get paid, you may have run into what a hassle it can be to go through the AP or vendor management process. Whereas with Upwork, the company pays Upwork. Upwork pays you after job completion. So they hold the funds kind of like an escrow, and they manage that payment upon completion. And you can have milestone payments as well. So it really takes the hassle out of the payment process for an independent, and it also kind of simplifies the billing and payment process from the employer project side. And they have a feedback and rating process, as I showed you with that resource OSIF. So it's a great platform. I've used it. I like it. It looks like people who use it like it. So I think it's good as a platform. So how could we make this easier and facilitate it if it works for people? Could we facilitate Upwork as a platform to make it easier to post BC projects and to find BC resources? And I'm wondering, given what I've seen, searching for Business Central or AL, it's not necessarily the best tag or the best search parameter. So could we use the tag like on Twitter, pound MS-365BC, or maybe there's an AL equivalent? These are the descriptions I found for the talent or the independents posting their availability on here. And you see it's all over the place. So, maybe there's a nav tag for the, existing nav customers, but my focus is on BC. So would MS-365BC hashtag help people find resources on Upwork? So something to consider. I don't know. Now, so that's kind of the independent, bill by the hour, bill by the project, that consulting or contract type work. But don't forget about AppSource. That's my recommendation. So yes, AppSource is a lot of upfront work, and it is a very different offer than hourly work. In many respects, it might be considered harder because you have to understand the process of creating commercial software or software that you're going to sell and support. It is in many ways very different from the hourly consulting, development, contracting, and ongoing support work. There are different expectations from people who are buying an app in AppSource. And if you don't do it well, it won't go well. Different skill sets and resources required. So I just chose Eric Hogard's products as an example. So he has created 4, and one is free that he created as part of his Creating an App in AppSource YouTube series. But, obviously Eric knows what he's doing. He is very well versed in this process, has done it for many years. So it is a lot of upfront work, but there is a different opportunity here. And for me, it's very appealing because instead of billing by the hour, day in, day out, month after month, year after year, you have to physically show up and be present and be connected and on your development environment or on a Zoom call or whatever that looks like. Your body has to be present. And that, in my experience, it gets tiring, right? Like even if you like your work, there's only so much capacity you physically have to bill by the hour. So what if you worked on an AppSource app on the side, part-time, nights and weekends, whatever that looks like, in your spare time, and you created a widget that would be valuable for people, Business Central users on AppSource. You invested that time. And in my experience, that's several $1,000s. That is dozens of hours of investment to get that done. Dozens of hours at a minimum, usually, if you're starting from scratch, learning Business Central and figuring out the whole AppSource ecosystem. But so far, Microsoft has charged me $0. As far as I know, literally $0 to go through the entire process of building and submitting an app to AppSource. So that's kind of appealing. The barrier to entry is not money or licensure or certification or being whatever. It's just the paperwork and the bureaucracy and the accounts and the signups and just the administrative minutia to go through the process. But if you're willing to slog through that, and if you're willing to put in the time, the only thing I've had to buy, I think, I had to buy a code signing certificate, and I chose to purchase terms and conditions and privacy policy, those legal docs, and I chose to incorporate. And I don't know that the incorporation is required. You could try to get free legal documents, but you kind of have to buy a code signing certificate, so $200 a year. So that's kind of what you're looking at. So the cost is not the barrier to entry. It's really just time and effort and discipline to slog through the process. If you did this, let's say you created a widget that you charge $20 a month for, something that makes people's lives easier. What if you got, over the course of a year or two or three, you got 50 people who bought it? At $20 a month, 50 customers, it's $1,000 a month, if my math is right. $1,000 a month for a widget. Let's say you created something more valuable and you were able to charge $50 a month per customer. Let's just keep it simple. Let's say you got 100 customers over 2 or 3 years. I mean, $5,000 a month? These are just pie in the sky, but just napkin math here. Back of the napkin math, 100 customers over several years. If you invested into that, $50 a month per customer, $5,000 a month. That's not a bad side income. And I'll call it passive income, right? You're not having to show up for 50 hours a month in order to produce that. Maybe you will put in 50 hours for sales and support and the billing and all the other stuff. But I think it's an opportunity where you can make more for less physical effort. You're not on the clock in order to make that. That's my theory, at least. So that's what I'm interested in. So I think AppSource is a great opportunity, especially for independents. If you are independent, don't rule out AppSource as an opportunity. If you're working on customer projects day in and day out, if you find a good idea that you can incorporate into an AppSource app, I think it might be worth doing. If you could charge $20 or $50 or whatever that price point is, it might be a side project. I don't know. But with that said, there are many, many projects that will go into AppSource that will get approximately 0 customers or make roughly $0, right? Not everything is going to be a big hit, but that's fine. You make one, you make another one, you make another one. And once you get that process down, I think it gets easier. So that's where I'm going with that. So, what do you think? Do you love working with Business Central? I do. I think it's got tons of opportunities to work with tons of technologies and tools and endless learning. And it's really on the cutting edge of the technology that is available from the Microsoft ecosystem. So I'm really enjoying it. And are you an independent consultant? Do you want to do projects independent, whether that's nights and weekends, whether that's a new career that you want to pursue, or do you want to work on AppSource apps? Let me know. I think there's lots of opportunities for independent consultants, so I'm pretty excited about it. So with that, have a good Friday and have a good weekend and do something fun. Okay, talk to you later.
Good morning, sun. How are you? Skies above. Gee, it's